viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time coming across my YouTube video, you're definitely welcome, and please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, help the channel to grow. Please like my video, give it a thumbs up, and also turn on your notification bell to be notified when I upload a new tutorial. So on a quick one, guys, on today's tutorial will be on how to sew this gown. On my previous tutorial I showed us how to cut it, so today will be the sewing part of this gown. So without much talks, let's dive into the tutorial. So right here is the fabric I'm working with, and I've gone ahead to cut everything. So here is for the yoke. As you can see, at this part I added half an inch seam allowance. Here is the paper. At the neckline I added half an inch seam allowance, which is here. Then at this lower side I'm going to attach it to the bodies of the gown. I added half an inch seam allowance all through. So with this half an inch seam allowance I added here, I will use it to turn it over, because I used the same material to cut out the lining. As you can see, I used the same material to cut out the lining. The bodice does not have any lining. So at the top here also I added half an inch seam allowance for the folding to make it neat. So here is for the back. Here is for the back and the facing. Here is the facing for the back. Here is the facing for the back. So right here we'll be moving on to the down part to cut the ruffles. I'll use this paper to illustrate to us on how many inches we are to use for the down parts, for the ruffles at this side. The ruffles are going to attach at this side, so I'm going to make use of this paper to illustrate it to us. So what you're going to do is measure from your shoulder tip to where to the 4 inches mark where we cut out for the back's effect. So you're going to measure it those way, starting from here. Don't start from the shoulder allowance you put place, start from here. So we measure. We have 19.5. 19.5. Here is it, 19.5. Okay, so you also measure from the shoulder tip to the V point also. When you measured here is 19.5, so we write it down, 19.5, because that's what we are going to use to get how many inches will be for the ruffles. 19.5. So keep this aside. Then we'll measure from the shoulder to the V point here. Which is 30.5. So also write it down. 30.5. I believe you can see what I'm doing. So right here, we are going to minus 30.5 from 19.5. Okay guys, so the length of the ruffles you're working with is 11 inches. While the width of the ruffles we are working with, let me bring the pattern paper to show us how to get the width of the ruffles we'll be working with. So right here, let me make use of the material. Let me make use of the material instead of the pattern paper so we'll understand better. So to get the width of the ruffles we're working with, we measure from here. Here is 13.5. 13.6. 13.6, not 5. Here is our 13.6. After the half-inch mark, here, 13.6. So, we gave 1.5 inch for seam allowance, which is 3 inches. Then 13.5 plus the 3 inches for the allowance we left for our joining is 15.6. Then depending on how full you want your gathers to be, so you can times it by 2 or you can times it by 3, or depending on you how full you want your gathers to be. So for me, I'm going to times it by 2. I'm going to times it by 2. So 15.6 times 2, it will give me 30.6. But I may change my mind later, timesing it by 3. So that's it. I forgot to mention this. At this bust line, also the bust curve line, I added half an inch seam allowance to join it with the yoke, so that we'll be shorting. As you can see, to join it with the yoke this way, I added half an inch seam allowance to this side. So guys, let's move on to the sewing part. I will take you guys along on how to join it. So here is the yoke part which I'll be working with. I'm going to mark out 0.5 inches from the chest line. Now I came up 1 inches from my bust point. So the half-inch mark I gave there, I'm going to mark it on the fabric right here. It will give me guide on how to sew the fabric, how to stitch the fabric down. So I'll take it to my sewing machine. I'm trying to arrange the fabric because the material is kind of shifting. So I'm trying to align everything so that I won't have one popping out from the other side. So I'm going to stitch on 0.5 inch down to the neckline. So here is my 0.5 inch. I'm going to stitch on the material. I'll stitch it down to the neckline, and I'm trying to mark it out with my chalk to give me a guide on how to stitch on it with my 0.5 inch. So I want to start my stitching now, and also aligning the material, the fabric, because it's shifting. So I just did my back stitch and I've started the stitching. Also arranging my material. I pinned it down. I'm removing the pins. Okay, so I've stitched it down to the neckline. I'm going to pull it out from the machine. So I'm trying to measure out that neckline to see if I really stitch on the 0.5 inch allowance which I gave, and it's not on the 0.5 inch. So I'm going to remark those parts that wasn't on the line, and I'm going to stitch it to give me a perfect work, so that by the time I will join it to the bodies, everything will be equal. So I'm going to restitch it again. Alright, so I'll pull it out from my machine and cut out the threads. It's good to always cut out your thread when sewing on your fabric to give it a neat and a good job well done. So guys, right here, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly do so, and also turn on your notification bell, like my videos. Okay, so I'm notching out that point where I started my stitch. Yeah, I've already gave the notch there. So I'm going to unpin it. I told you guys I pinned it down so that the material won't really shift. So I'm going to remove the pins from the dress. I will turn it over to the right side to see the outcome of it. So that is it. That's the right side of the material. I will keep it aside. So here is the second yoke. I've gone ahead to stitch down the second yoke. I'm gonna head to stitch down the second yoke. So I'm going to notch those areas that I stitched earlier. I'm going to notch them for it to relax perfectly. Alright, I'm done with the notches. Added 2 yokes. So I'm going to open it up to the right side, and I'm going to stitch the lining part to keep it in place for it not to be popping out by the time I'll be done with my stitches. By the time I'll be done with the dress, I mean to say, when I wear it, so that it won't be, the lining part won't be popping out from the bust side or from the bust region, anyone. So I'm going to stitch it down in place. the more I'm trying to, I've already notched the material, so I'm trying to be careful when stitching it down, and also taking my time to do so. I'll repeat the same process at the second yoke. When I'm through with this one I'm doing right now, I'm going to repeat the same process to the second yoke. Okay, I've done my back stitch. I'll pull it out from my machine and cut out the threads. So here is it. I did this because there is no light, so I when there is light, I would have used my hot iron to iron this down. So here is the notch which I gave at the side. We are going to attach to the bodies of the material. Okay, so I'm going to do the same at the other yoke. Alright, I've gone ahead to top stitch the two front yokes, as you can see. So I'll be bringing in the bodies to fix the yokes on the bodies. So before then, at the top part, I'm going to, at the top part of those bodies, yes, at that side, I'm going to fold it in 0.5 inch. I gave that allowance when I was cutting it on the fabric. I'm going to sew it. So I've done stitching it down with 0.5 inch, as you can see. Then I'm going to fold the materials together to get the midpoint of the cup part on the main bodies. I'm going to fold it to get the midpoint. It will give me a guide on where to start my pleating. That is where I'll pleat the yoke part to the bodies. So I've gone ahead to notch that. So I'm going to place the yoke parts on the bodies. Please guys, at the initial time I told you guys that at the down part of the bodies where the breast cup line is, I added half an inch seam allowance. Please, when cutting yours, do not add half an inch seam allowance there. Only add it at the yoke part, because after stitching it, the material is a stretchy fabric, which is the down part of the material. Is a stretchy fabric, so I won't advise you guys to add the 0.5 inch which I added. But if you're working with non-stretchy fabric, you go ahead and add the 0.5 inch. As you add at the yoke, you add it at the bodies also for the joining. So I'm trying to pin them down with my pin to give me guide on the sewing. So I'm going to also notch the midpoint of the yoke. So I'm going to pin the 2 points together, making sure they all both aligned. So I'm checking if I'm at the right side, which I am not. I'm going to remove the pin and get the accurate midpoint of the yoke to attach it to the notched part of the down bodice. So that is where my planes will fall in. I'm going to pin it down with my pin. This pin don't want to do work. You must. So I'm going to pin it down with my pin. Alright. It's accurate now. So I'm going to plait those areas. I'm going to plait them. I'm just checking the outcome. So after that, I'll take it to my machine to stitch down those areas which I pinned. I'm just checking out the outcome. I've not stitched it yet. So right here, I've gone ahead to stitch down the yoke. I'll turn the back for us to see. Here is the back part. I've gone ahead to stitch it down. And here is the front. So what I did at this side of the yoke, I'm going to repeat the process at this other side of the yoke by folding it to get the midpoint. That's the midpoint over there, is notched already. So I'm going to introduce the other yoke also. I'm going to introduce the other yoke to stitch it down like the way I did for the other side of the yoke. I'm gonna need to stitch down the 2 yokes to the bodies. Here is it. I'm gonna need to stitch them down, and here inside of it, I've trimmed out all my thread. Here is the yoke. So right now I'm going to introduce the back panel of this gown. Here is the back panel. I'll be working with the fourth side of the back. You know, I added zipper allowance at this clothes, but I didn't make use of the zipper allowance anymore. I closed it up. So I'm going to stitch the facing down to the fabric with 0.5 inch. I've done stitching the 2 back panel, and I've gone ahead to top stitch and notch on it so that the facing we stay right inside the fabric. It won't be coming out. by the time I'll put it on. So the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch down the zip allowance. I'm no more making use of the zip. I'm no more adding zip to this dress, I mean to say, because the material I'm working with is a stretchy material, which I told you guys earlier is crepe that I'm working with. So I'll be attaching the front to the back. I will attach the two shoulders together. I left 0.5 inch earlier at the shoulder line, so I'm going to use it to stitch down the front and the back bodies at the shoulder line together with 0.5 inch. So I'm going to align the two bodies together. I'm going to align them together and stitch on 0.5 inch. So right here, I've gone ahead to join the shoulders together. Here's it. No, we left 1.5 inches for joining allowance. So I'm going to turn it to the back. I'll be using the 1.5 inches allowance I left to turn it to join the front and back together. So at this waistline, we are working with stretchy fabric. At this waistline, my waist measurement is 25 inches, but I'll be minusing 2 inches from 25, or 1 inch. I'll be minusing 1 inch from 25. Depending on how stretchy your fabric is, I'll be minusing 1.5 inches from 25. Then I'll divide the rest answer I got by 4. So I'll be using it to stitch from the waist side. But starting from the armhole area, which is here, I'll be using 1.5. Starting from the armhole area, I'll be using 1.5 inch seam allowance, which I left there. Then at the waist region, I'll be minusing 1.5 inches from 25. Then I'll divide it by 4. Whatever the answer gives to me, if it is 2 inches, let's assume it's 2 inches, or 2.5 inches, let's assume, but I've not yet divided it. I will mark it. Then at this down part also, I will also take my 1.5 inch seam allowance. As you can see, that is the essence of us making this curve here. So it will give us a guide on how to couple it. I'm going to do the same thing at the both sides. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to join the bodies. I've gone ahead to join the bodies. I don't know if we can see this. Here's it. I've gone ahead to join it, and I've done the same thing at the other side. So what I'm going to do now, for my zipper allowance, we used 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. So I'll be running a straight stitch from the neckline. I'll be running a straight stitch to the end of the gown to close up our zipper allowance, then before fixing the zip to the dress. So as you can see, I'll run a straight stitch of 1.5 inch right here. Then after that I may fix the ruffles. Here is the material I cut out for my ruffles. After closing the zipper line, I may fix the ruffles, then attach it before attaching my zip. So guys, here is the outcome of this beautiful dress you're seeing right here. I used gathers for this dress, but I don't like the outcome of it. I lost it and I started fresh, and I made use of tiny plaits on this dress, and it came out nice. As you can see here, I love the outcome of it. It's really giving. I rocked this to church and people were like, wow, I love your dress. Oh my goodness. It's so giving, guys. So I would like you to try this out. So right here, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please, what are you waiting for? Kindly do so, okay? Do so, and I'll be bringing up this ear styles for us on how to cut them. Please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on your notification bell, please like all my videos, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.